For full disclosure, we received a free copy of Only Way Is Down from Game.Press for review purposes. Hello, this is Tim at Wembembo on everything from the Game Club pod and Two Blokes from Blighty and Game Changers and Thanks I Hate It and everything else that we do here at the Game Club pod. You've also probably seen my billboard. On this episode of DLC, we'll be taking a look at Only Way Is Down, a game that came out on April 1st, 2025 and was developed and published by Jilted Generations Productions. Only Way Is Down sees the player take on the role of a cat that has gotten themselves stuck at the top of a construction site and must use precise precision in order to make its way down to the street again. The start of the game greets us with a few menus like customizing your cat, which I'm sure unlocks plenty of references along the way. A particular highlight of me being the chonk slider that allows for a maximum stat of "Oh Lord, he's coming." The main draw of the game, though, is the Go Home menu item, which is where the meat of this thing is. Interestingly, it seems that the default difficulty for this game is Insane Mode. 9 lives and checkpoints are not permanent. There's a number of difficulty modes ranging from in the Insane difficulty all the way down to a casual option with unlimited lives and checkpoints lasting forever, etc., etc. The game does an okay job at guiding you through the abilities and rules of the cat, like Kitty Cat Vision that has the screen go super blurry except for a trail of light to guide the player in the developer-intended direction, or the option to slow down time at the push of a button to make your timings for your jumps a little more lenient. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Kitty Cat Vision myself. The effect that's overlaid on the screen is actually pretty difficult on the eyes and made it so I actually couldn't use the system for more than a few seconds at a time. I can appreciate the want for a mechanic like this though, but I think it could have been implemented in a much more elegant way. Perhaps a system that shows you a ghost cat running along the intended path, or they could take a leaf out of Mirror's Edge's book and simply color coordinate the start and end point of the puzzle, allowing the player to work out the individual steps to get there on their own. I've said before on the podcast that I'm not a fan of these YouTuber bait games like Five Nights at Freddy's and Happy Wheels, if you remember that, or anything like Bennett Foddy. This game feels like it could very easily fall into that category though because of one small mechanic having a massively frustrating impact on the game. If you have 2 feet off a ledge, your cat will just keel over and more often than not, die, making you repeat large sections of the map over and over and over and over again. I'm not against having falling and going back to a checkpoint as a concept. I really enjoyed Driving Is Hard from a previous DLC episode that relies on this exact idea, and even FromSoft titles exhibit this kind of framework if you squint at them right. But where those two succeed and Only Way Is Down fails is that most of the time, Only Way Is Down feels unfair. You can see a maximum of 3 legs at a time on the cat, and I actually think one leg might be unrendered when sprinting. I'm not sure if this is a bug. When standing still, your cat gets what I would refer to as tank controls from classic games like the original Resident Evil, where you kind of stand in place and more pivot in a direction. But because of the way the cat's leg-based kinematics work, it's not predictable where the cat will actually be putting its foot once it's turning. But because of the cat's leg-based kinematics, it's not predictable where the cat will actually put its feet when it's turning, often resulting in a fall. I think that because of the momentum that the cat carries too when it's sprinting, along with the kinematics issue, it often feels like the cat's front legs are magnetized to a point just off the playable edge, resulting in a fall. And I think it's down to the momentum, that one, because when you're slowly walking, which thankfully the game does have a control button for, it works fine for the most part, but then we end up running into the pivoting issue again. As of right now, the only people I can recommend this to are people who like cat games like Stray and Little Kitty Big City, which I'll be referring to as catformers from now on, or YouTubers who are into this intentionally frustrating platforming genre. It seems to be an increasingly growing cross-section of genres with the rise of cat-based games and people wanting to be YouTubers. For everyone else though, maybe wait until there's a sale or until the control-based issues have been addressed. Thanks for joining me on this short DLC. I'll see you next time.